Kiah Stokes drives her knee straight into Caitlin Clark's quad, the ref standing right there watching, and calls nothing. Clark limps back on defense, and you can see it on her face. This isn't just pain, this is rage building up. After the next play, she's screaming at referee Gerda Gatling, and by the post-game presser, she's saying the quiet part out loud about Stephanie White. Stick around because I'm breaking down every missed call on Clark, every phantom whistle on Aaliyah Boston, and why this might be the night Clark decided she's done with Indiana, as she just went nuclear on the dirty WNBA referees and coach Stephanie White after the Indiana Fever loss to the Golden State Valkyries. Should Clark finally leave the Indiana Fever? Let me know down in the comments below. Second quarter Fever ball, and Kiah Stokes plants her knee straight into Caitlin Clark's quad like she's trying to end her night early. The ref is standing maybe 3 feet away, has a clean look at the whole thing, and does absolutely nothing. No whistle, no free throws, nothing. Just play on like a WNBA star didn't just get drilled in the leg in front of thousands of people and a national TV audience. 2 or 3 plays where a defender straight up shoves Clark off her spot with no call. Patterns already been building for a full quarter, and everyone watching at home can see it, except apparently the 3 people wearing whistles on the court. Right after the knee, you can see Clark change. She limps back on defense, favoring the leg hard, barely bending the knee on that side, and the broadcast catches her face doing this thing where she's trying to play it off, but her jaw is locked tight, and her eyes are somewhere else. That's not frustration from missing a shot. That's real pain mixed with the kind of anger that comes from knowing nobody's going to do anything about it.
Make a move to try to keep Burton off that rebound, and Clark is very upset. Gerda Gatling is giving Caitlin Clark a very long leash on the way she's reacting, and sometimes you just gotta let the player voice their opinion.
And that's the part that actually matters here. Because that single no call doesn't just cost Indiana a free throw or 2, it changes the entire rest of Clark's night. She's now trying to push off a bad quad every time she drives, trying to change direction on a leg that's swelling her that she initiated the contact herself, like Clark ran her own quad into Stokes' knee on purpose. Sit with that one for a second, because that's the actual explanation Clark got in real time on the court for why a defender's knee driving into her leg wasn't a foul. Compare that to what Clark said once she got to the podium after the game. Her exact words, "That hurts. The ref can't miss that. And then I have to play with a contusion in my leg the rest of the game. It's ridiculous." No hedging, no coach speak, just Clark stating plainly that the officiating cost her the ability to play her own game for the rest of the night. And right after that no call, Clark doesn't just jog back and swallow it. She turns straight to Gatling and lets her have it, right there on the court, loud enough for people near the floor to hear. She gets a warning for it, somehow avoids a technical, and you can tell from her body language she's not scared of that outcome either way. From that point forward, Clark's playing hurt, dragging the leg a little on every cut, still trying to push tempo and find Boston in the paint, while Golden State keeps bumping her off every screen. And Boston's about to find out what the other version of this treatment looks like.
In the game, in that closing stretch here.
And it could be something simple that we don't know. Obviously, we're not on the bench. We're not in the head of Stephanie White. It could be something that Timpson is giving them a look that Stephanie White likes right now and wants to keep going with.
And you see Coach White bringing in more sub to take some of these players out. You said it about game 44. I think you really have to conserve energy. Both Caitlin and Aaliyah Boston this time.
Why was Aaliyah Boston, the best interior player Indiana has, stuck on the bench for stretches of a game they couldn't afford to be without her? That's the question every Fever fan was asking by halftime, watching their all-star post player sit while the team desperately needed her body in the paint. The foul trouble started early, and it started fast. Boston picked up her first whistle on a play that barely qualified as contact, a bump on a post-up that Golden State players were doing to her all night without anyone reaching for a whistle. By the time she picked up her second foul, it still hadn't reached the midpoint of the second quarter, and White had no choice but to sit her rather than risk foul number 3 before halftime. And the calls that sent her to the bench weren't just soft. Some of them were straight-up flops. Golden State players going down on contact that wouldn't knock over a chair, throwing their heads back like they'd been hit with a truck, and the refs bought it every single time. One sequence in particular has Boston boxing out for a rebound, barely moving her arm, and the Valkyries player collapses to the floor like she'd been shot. Whistle blows, foul on Boston, and she's back on the bench, shaking her head at nobody in particular because there's nobody to argue with who's actually going to listen. Now flip that to the other end of the floor. Golden State's bigs are banging into Boston on every single possession, using their length to grab and hold on the block, and they're playing through all of it without a single whistle following them back down the court. That's the double standard sitting right there on tape for anyone who wants to go back and watch it frame by frame. This connects to the bigger story of how Golden State plays defense in general. They came out and ran off to a 12-2 lead to open the game, using their length to clog every driving lane and turn every catch into a wrestling match. And the officiating let that physical identity run wild from the opening minute. That start put Indiana in a hole before Boston even picked up her first foul, and it never really let up. No one else on the roster gives Indiana that same kind of post presence. So Boston's bench time didn't just cost her minutes, it cost the entire offense its balance.
And miss, gets the offensive rebound. Clark's behind the back. It's a Boston corner 3. That one goes down.
All of it, Boston still walked away with 15 points, 7 rebounds, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. Think about that for a second. Those are the numbers she put up while spending real chunks of the game glued to the bench because of foul calls that didn't match what Golden State was doing on the other end. Imagine what that box score looks like if she plays uninterrupted minutes, instead of watching foul trouble eat into her night. Put Boston's whistles next to Clark's no call, and this isn't some isolated bad night for the referees either. Fans and analysts have been pointing out inconsistent officiating around Fever games all season long. Even with all of it working against them, Clark and Boston still put up numbers that deserve real credit, playing on a quad that could barely push off the floor. So the real question isn't whether the numbers are good, it's how she managed to put up anything at all once that leg stopped working right. Break down the shooting line and it gets uglier. 4 for 14 from the field, 1 for 8 from 3, numbers that look like a bad shooting night on paper, but tell a different story once you know what was happening underneath them. Every possession where Clark tried to create separation off the dribble, she needed that first step, the same push off the injured leg that got ignored by the referees back in the second quarter.
Clark works out the Boston screen. Goes to her on the roll, left wide open, lays it up and in.
So you need points to go to your all-stars, and right there, the two-man action between Clark and Boston gets them.
4 turnovers tell the same story from a different angle. A compromised leg means less explosion on drives, less separation from defenders, less rhythm on every read she's making in real time. Clark's turnovers usually come from live ball aggression, taking risks because she trusts her first step to bail her out. Take that away and the same reads that usually work turn into live ball giveaways, because the defender she used to blow past is now still in front of her, still contesting the pass she thought she had. Sophie Cunningham didn't just show up, she took over stretches of this game defensively, finishing with 10 points and 4 steals that came from anticipation and effort rather than talent alone. While Clark and Boston dealt with fouls and injury, Cunningham was the one hawking passing lanes and turning defense into instant offense. Exactly the kind of alertness a shorthanded roster needs when its stars are compromised.
Here are these half-court situations where the Valkyries are just so good, but Cunningham cannot miss!
There's Kelsey Mitchell, logging 35 minutes in a game that got decided way before the fourth quarter even started. Now, Clark, the actual engine of this offense, got pulled for a minute's restriction while playing hurt, and Mitchell kept hunting shots deep into a blowout that had zero suspense left in it.
Tiffany Hayes leaves it short at the rim.
3 stops in a row.
Mitchell has been so confident and dials up a three. Here we go.
Put those 2 minutes totals next to each other and draw your own conclusion about what this coaching staff actually prioritizes on a given night. Clark sits chunks of the fourth quarter because of a cap tied to injury management, and Mitchell plays through the whole thing padding a stat line that doesn't change the scoreboard. That hurts. The ref can't miss that, and then I have to play with a contusion in my leg the rest of the game. It's ridiculous. That's the full quote, and there's nothing hedged about it. No coach speak, no "I need" sitting next to her comments on the officiating tells you exactly where her head's at right now.
Kaylin, can you take me through that second quarter play with Stokes that made you upset and then you hopped into the back?
Like, that hurts. Like, the ref can't miss that, and then I have to play with a contusion in my leg the rest of the game. Like, it's ridiculous. Can't miss calls like that.
Did they give you an explanation right after when you?
She said I initiated the contact, which is fine. You can't knee me in the leg, knock me over.
Stephanie White handles her own presser completely differently, defending the officiating as part of the game and framing the rotation as part of a plan built around long-term health. Put those two pressers side by side, and the gap is obvious. Clark naming a specific injury and a specific missed call. White talking in general terms about a system and a process. That's not two people on the same page, that's two people describing two different games. The reasoning behind the minutes cap goes back to Clark's back injury recovery, a 25-minute limit meant to protect her body across the long run of a season. That logic made sense back when she was working her way back from a back issue nobody wanted to rush. But logic like that starts to wear thin once it gets applied on a night where Clark's already been kneed in the quad and forced to play hurt for 3 quarters, because now the cap isn't protecting her from her own recovery. It's protecting her from a workload she was already unfairly forced into by bad officiating.
And I had some good looks that didn't go down, and then, I shot some tougher looks too, but, I thought I finally kind of played with a little bit more pace and a little bit more burst, especially down the stretch in the fourth, but hopefully I don't have to keep playing 25 minutes.
Well, speaking of that, as far as the contusion goes, it seems like
we'll just rub it out. She's fine. Yeah. Good old knuckles on it and call it a day.
On the other end of the floor.
That's the double punishment sitting right in the middle of this whole night. Clark takes the knee, plays through it because nobody blew a whistle, fights to stay useful on a bad leg, and then gets pulled anyway because of a number on a chart that doesn't know or care what happened to her leg in the second quarter. Getting hurt on the floor and then getting benched for reasons that have nothing to do with the hurt itself, that's the kind of thing that builds resentment fast. And that resentment is exactly what's fueling the speculation running through fan pages and sports shows right now. This idea that Clark and White aren't just disagreeing on strategy, they're pulling in two different directions entirely. Some analysts have already started talking trade capital, floating scenarios where Indiana leans fully into Boston and Hull as the core, and moves on from the Clark-White pairing altogether. Nobody's saying the actual word yet, not Clark, not the front office, but the fact that the conversation is even happening tells you where the temperature's at. So is this the night Clark's patience actually snapped, or just one more entry in a pattern that's been building for a while now? If White and the front office can't get on the same page about protecting their franchise player, all this noise turns into something Indiana won't be able to walk back. Strip away everything else and here's what's left. Clark scored 13 and dished 6 assists on a leg that barely worked. Boston fought foul trouble the whole night, and Indiana still lost big to a team that played rougher and got away with it clean. Nobody manufactured this anger. Fans earned it watching refs miss an obvious knee, watching White's rotation choices raise real questions, watching Mitchell log 35 minutes in a decided game while Clark sat. Should Clark finally leave the Indiana Fever? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications as we're bringing you all the action and top stories. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.